listening. We are privileged here to be with Daniel Switzer. How's it going, Daniel?
It's going good. Thank you for having me,
Yeah,
Luke.
it's so good to have you here. Not your first time here.
Yeah, I've visited before, and now I'm back, and I'm actually doing Back in Action, which is a summer theater camp, and we're doing that for Artstarts and partnering with Union Street Arts, and it's been going really well.
Yeah, we're almost to the end of the week of camp, but it's been great to have you here. It's been great seeing you guys with the kids, doing different acting, theater, dancing, creative stuff.
All of it, yeah. We do like a lot of games to get the kids excited, but then once we get out of the games, we do a lot of acting, improv, singing, like call and response, dance, and then we're gonna have a performance actually tomorrow for the parents and for the friends, and see what we've been working on all week.
Yeah, let's just brag on you a little bit here. Give the audience more of a context to some of your performing background.
Okay.
You are a professional performer, Broadway performer.
Yes.
Music theater.
I do all of the above. I have really specialized in Broadway type of musical theater, which means singing, dancing, acting, all kinds of different styles. And I've been fortunate enough to land some really big shows. My first big show was Cats, and then I was in Wicked the musical, which was one of my favorites. I was like, whoa, when I got that part. And then I moved on to do Newsies the musical, which is on Disney Plus right now. And then I made my Broadway debut in Mean Girls, which is Tina Fey's musical. And then, yeah, the last thing I did was Frozen the musical on tour.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That is just so amazing. So yeah, maybe we can dive a little bit more into that.
Okay.
Maybe, talk to us a little bit about, how you got into theater. Take us to that origin story.
Okay.
What got you interested?
My parents were pretty creative and they're pretty artistic, and my mom took me to see Peter Pan at the St. Louis Muni when I was really young, and she said I was on the edge of my seat the whole entire night, and that I was like paying attention to every little thing. And at the end of the night, I told my mom, one day I'm going to be on that stage. And she didn't take it very lightly, and I always danced in the living room, and I was always putting on little shows for my family. And so she signed me up for dance classes, and I will never be able to repay her for what that has done in my life, because it set me on a course to just continue to pursue arts and continue to find a passion in theater and performing. I always liked seeing people perform, and I was always captivated by other people performing, and I always thought, like, I can do that. Like I told my mom, and I really got drawn to the music. I remember always like feeling the beat and the rhythm, and I wanted to dance with people. And that took me on a further journey of like figuring out what other things I liked. So I really liked upbeat jazz type of music. I really liked musical theater. Like I kept on finding other Broadway shows that I was really captivated by. And so I guess what it was really about with dance is that I was encouraged to do things like that. Like people told me like, yeah, keep doing that. It wasn't like discouraged. It wasn't like, Daniel, you're a boy, you shouldn't do that. It was, Daniel, you're good at this, and we should keep encouraging you.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, I feel very lucky now that I'm an adult and I realize that.
Yeah, so the kind of was a gateway, right, for this whole creative journey, performance journey that you've been on since then.
Totally. And if it wasn't for some people early on in my life to give me that encouragement, I probably wouldn't be telling you about Broadway and other things like that.
Yeah. And that's why it's so cool to see you now with these kids, these Artstarts kids,
right,
providing that same opportunity, the same kind of encouragement, the same kind of thing that helped you get to where you are right now in your professional performance career. It's been pretty amazing. So kudos for giving back to our youth.
Yeah. I got to talk with the parent just now after day 4 of camp, and she was telling me about her child who is introverted and pretty quiet usually, but after camp, they won't stop talking about how much fun and the friends they made and all this stuff. And I told her, you know, we're kind of like a tribe, and artistic people really, we do well around other artistic people. And sometimes it's hard to find your tribe. And, you know, we're giving the kids that space and that encouragement to, yeah, what do you like? What are you passionate about? What are you talented and good at? What can you bring? All those kind of things to camp.
Was there a moment that you knew that I'm going to pursue this? You know, whether it was in the high school or was there ever a moment that you knew this is what you wanted to do?
I do. I think that there was a moment, like when I was talking about that Peter Pan show, like I've had other moments like that where things really connected, where it was like, oh, I'm successful at this, and people are giving me praise, and they're telling me, we really want to see you do it again, and things like that. So I was encouraged more. And so in high school, it was a big deal for me to make the decision to study musical theater. Like I was going to do 4 years in college and study it. And looking back on it, I'm like, wow, I really did that. And I think that was my stepping stone from, you know, playing around in the playground of musical theater, like community theater, dance, choir, and saying, you know what, I'm going to do this for real. And I think what's really interesting when you were asking me that question is I think we all kind of wonder, am I supposed to be doing this? Am I not supposed to be doing this? And I still, even as an adult, and I'm still questioning sometimes, like, am I going to do something else? But you know what? I've always given myself the ability to say, maybe not right now. Maybe I can come back to it. And so it's always been there in my life because of that. So
like anything, you know, especially in anything creative or being vulnerable, putting yourself out there, there's going to be the ebbs and flows, right? The
questions.
Right, constantly.
Yeah.
And I think that's just normal. You know, that's just, you know, us as humans.
Right.
You know, we're just conditioned this way.
Yeah, and we question everything in our lives. So especially something that says, okay, you're not guaranteed to make money on this, or you're not guaranteed to have a long career in this. So of course you're going to ask yourself, am I supposed to be doing this? But as an artist, I think a big part of choosing this path is to give into that that unknown, and give into the starving artist type of mentality of like, well, I'm still going to pursue it, even though it's not guaranteed.
Mm-hmm. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that, you know, circle back a little bit.
Okay.
And talk about, you said your first show, right? And maybe we can talk about the lead up to that.
Yeah.
Booking Cats.
Right.
And what that was like
Right.
as a up and coming performer.
Yeah. So I went to college in Rockford, Illinois, and I grew up in St. Louis, so it wasn't that far, but it was far enough for me to feel like I wasn't in St. Louis. And I really decided to keep pursuing, and I actually found Marion in Carbondale while I was there because I started doing professional theater in college. Like during the summer, we would do auditions, and then we would go do these small gigs in the summer. And that's when I found McLeod Summer Playhouse, and I met your family, and I came to Marion, and I heard about this company called Artstarts and what they were doing for children. And I was like, for me as a child, that was very important for me. So I understood it right away. I was like, what you all are doing is really good stuff. And so I wanted to get involved. And then, you know, beyond that, I started pursuing professional theater, and I started auditioning for bigger shows. And when I booked Cats, I really didn't think I had it in me to do like the audition and to do like the part where you get to go to New York and then audition and then keep on getting callbacks and then make the cut. I couldn't put myself in that mindset, but there are people around me who are like, well, you should be able to do that. I think you're going to do it. And it happened. And I was like, oh, I got to listen to people, you know, I got to get out of my own way and do that. So that's how that worked. And then I went on tour with that show for a year, and it really changed my perception of the world because I saw other cities. I met other people. I learned more from other performers who had been doing it, and I got to see a bigger world.
Yeah, kind of, that's almost like a I've made it moment, right? All these years of classes and performing and booking a show like that. I mean, that must have felt amazing.
Yeah, it did. It felt really, really cool. And my parents and my friends came to Chicago to see me in the show. And yeah, I'll never forget that.
Yeah. And tour life is its own thing, I'm sure.
Yes. And that tour specifically was like shorter stints. So we would be at a place for a weekend, maybe 2 nights, maybe 1 night even. And it was kind of difficult sometimes. But I was around other people who had just graduated college, and we were all like, wow, this is so cool. It wasn't a hard, oh, this is, we're sleeping on buses and looking at it that way. It was more like a, hey, look, like we're going to be in this really cool city tomorrow.
Yeah. And that's sort of like, you talked about that tribe, that crew, that community that you can surround yourself with and really uplift each other and support each other and tell each other, you're amazing.
Yeah.
You're hot stuff.
Yeah.
And if you fall off, we'll be here to make sure you don't fall all the way.
Yeah. And I think that comes from people being attracted to each other's energy and like, oh, you like similar things like I do, like theater, and I've had similar paths, but mine have gone this way. And, we learn to support each other. And we learn to bring each other up, and I think that's really important. So, even in my day-to-day life, if I see somebody and I like their outfit or their hair, I'm quick to compliment, and I'm quick to be like, hey, you look great today.
How many shows was that first tour?
It was a little under a year. So we were out on the road. I remember we went to Canada, and it was in the middle of winter, and it was freezing cold, but we also went to San Diego, and it was beautiful. And yeah, it was a great experience.
Yeah. Like you said, learning from people that have done it before and kind of more seasoned.
Right.
Did you have any moments of someone taking you in and kind of saying, hey,
I'm thinking about the next show that I did, Wicked, and that was a big deal because after Cats, I moved to LA, and I was like, what am I doing here? And LA is a crazy space. It's like so much happening all the time. But I kind of honed in, and I started doing theater there. I got an agent there. I auditioned for Wicked, and I booked it. And it was a long process. I really just dumbed that down because it was about a 2-year process that happened. But once I got into Wicked, I looked at Wicked like it was my dream show. I was so excited to be in that show. And it was kind of crazy because like first week I was surrounded by people who were kind of like not really my tribe. Oh. And all of a sudden I was surrounded by people who were a little jaded. And so I got a taste of something else. And I think it started affecting me because there's probably other people out there like that, but I'm really affected by people's energy. So I'm in a good tribe, I'm feeling good. If I'm in not such good space, I kind of get affected by that. And this older actor, his name is Kevin McMahon. He was a huge leader in my life in the way that you're asking that question. And was there someone in your life that could be there for you? He really stepped up and saw that I had potential and talent still to offer. And he brought my attention to the business of acting and how to make it long-term in the industry and the ins and outs of our union. That was my first big union show. So I learned a lot about that. And he encouraged me a lot on the days that were hard. And he would step in and say, you got this, this is no big deal. You're going to go on to do bigger and better things. And I'm so glad he told me that. That's
incredible. That's so valuable, during the hardships that will come with any pursuit.
Right.
There will be the ups and downs, but to have someone like that, give you that confirmation is, pretty awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I took it with me. So the next big show I did was Newsies, and I was one of the older actors in that group because it's a cast of pretty young people. And I was like, you know what, I can be a leader. And I shared some of the knowledge that I had gained from those 2 past shows. And I encouraged people when they were down. And I got to continue to spread that encouraging vibe.
Wicked is one of my favorite Broadway shows. It's one of the first one I saw, on a stage, professional stage, and love that show. I'm sure do you have a favorite number or a favorite moment from that show that comes to mind?
Yes. I mean, Defying Gravity is epic, so I can't even let this moment go by without saying that. But for me, and I say this about a lot of shows, but this show in particular, the opening number just captivates you. You probably don't even remember it because there's just so much going on in the opening number. But as an ensemble member, we're like moving all over the stage. We're singing these crazy high notes. We're jumping, we're twirling. We got costumes underneath our costumes because we're about to do a quick change to keep the story rolling. And I love a story like that. And that's what really awesome musical theater Broadway does. You don't even know what's happening, but it's just happening. And the story sweeps you away.
Yeah, so take me inside that opening number.
Okay.
Okay, you're on stage. You're doing it. You've got all the costume on. Everybody's dancing around. What happens? Talk about that energy. Talk about you're moving to the next one. You're ripping off clothes. What's it like on that stage during that?
It's incredible because we all start on stage, but the curtain is down, so you don't see us, but we're right behind the curtain because as the curtain comes up, we're all on stage. So right before that happens, I remember there was like a group huddle that we did, and we always said hi to each other, and we checked in with each other like, all right, we're about to do the show, and some days were harder to do that stuff, but most of the time that was our moment to come together because now we're about to do an almost 3-hour-long show, which doesn't stop. And it's choreographed backstage as much as it's choreographed on stage. So you try to get into a mindset of like, here we go. And I know what's coming up next. And I can bring this energy, this note, this whatever that I need to in a moment. And that was a collective coming together moment for sure.
I just picturing bodies flying backstage, ripping off costumes.
Yeah, someone's going up into the rafters in a bubble as we start the show. So
that's pretty epic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so 3 hours, that's a long show, probably pretty physically tiring, right? And you wrap up, and head. Is there, any rituals you have after the shows, any sort of, you give the performance, is it any tidbits like that?
Yeah. I mean, before the show, I always would warm up. And, when I was younger, I probably didn't do it as much. But as I got older, I realized that it was helping and that it made a difference with injury, illness, things like that. So I really made it a priority to include that consistency. And after the show, I would get undressed, I'd chill out, I'd make myself look a little nicer so that when I walk out the stage door, I'm not just like a hot mess for everybody. And I would usually hang out with the cast or hang out with somebody who comes to the show, but also having the discipline to say, I got another one tomorrow. We do 8 shows a week when we're doing Broadway shows. So it's always thinking about the next show. And that's a lot of hours. How do you do 8 shows when there's only 7 days in a week? We pack it full, and we're always inviting new audiences into the theater, and the show must go on.
That's right. It must go on.
It has to.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you a little bit more about that, the mental preparation, the warm-ups, right? And how, I think there's like such a correlation of getting your mind and body right to do anything in life. But obviously when performance is maybe a little more exaggerated, but I think there's some crossover, between performance and the everyday world, just how we live our lives day to day.
Trying to figure out how I'm going to stay on top of my game and stay performance ready, not only for the show, because I also want to have a life outside of the show.
Right.
became very important after maybe I didn't have one for a little bit. And so how I would try to stay that way and stay on top of my mental fortitude and my body, my physical body, because that was important. I didn't want to become sick. I didn't want to miss a show. I found yoga, and I found just living a little bit more intentional in my life. So those kind of came together, and I move with intention. And I know that if I'm going to use my muscles a lot, that I should probably give them a nice ease into that, right? So if I'm going to be super physical where I'm jumping a lot and I'm maybe getting down on my knees a lot, that I should probably get my legs warmed up, and I should probably stretch them out pretty regularly. And then it came further on of like, you know, my mind's racing at night. I can't turn it off or something, or I'm overthinking about this thing that's happened in my life. When I could find yoga and I could make time in my life for yoga, and even if not a full hour practice, right? Sometimes that wasn't even doable. Just moving in a very slow, mindful way, breathing, focusing on my breath, focusing on what I was doing, being mindful, because I do feel like that is like something that you have to put your mind to and also choose to do. And being able to be in that space gave me an opportunity to work out those other things.
Yeah. And how far along your journey did you find that come into play when you found maybe yoga or some of that?
That was right after Wicked. And I would say, like, when Wicked ended, I went through a pretty, tough spot in my life, like a lot of people do. I went through a breakup, and I went through living in a new space. And so it was trying to figure out how to keep moving forward. And so friends of mine got on board with it, and I jumped on board, and I really took to it.
Yeah, it's good, for your body, for your mind. There's that connection that a lot of people separate, and when really it's the same thing, your body and the mind.
Totally.
There's no separation there.
Totally. It's all connected. Yeah. And if we can have a fluid flow between the parts, then we can find an ease to our life.
Yeah. Find an ease and a flow, a rhythm. After Wicked, were you in New York at this time?
By way of Louisiana, where my family lives, I eventually got to New York. Yes.
Shout out Louisiana.
Yes. Baton Rouge.
Yes. Cajun country.
Yeah, they moved there, and there's some cool people down there.
Oh, yeah.
It's hot.
It's hot. Swamps.
It's hot.
Down the bayou.
Yes. And so I moved to New York shortly after staying with my family for a little bit, and I wasn't there very long before I booked Newsies. And I will preface that I had auditioned for Newsies about 3 or 4 times prior to this last time that I booked it. The show had been on Broadway and on tour already, and I got a bunch of no's. I was told not this time a bunch of times, and that brought me down. But every time it happened, I picked myself back up, and I said, I'm going to try again. The worst thing that could happen is they say no again. And every time it kind of gave me a little bit more fuel. It lit a fire underneath me even more every time. And that last time, I feel like I just nailed the audition. They saw something new in me, and I brought something else to the audition.
Do you know what that was?
It was a little bit of anger, but used in a good way.
Wow.
So that light, that fire that I was talking about, because I was kind of like, it's 4 times, and there were guys around me that they were paying really close attention to. And I was like, I'm way better. I know I can book this. And I got kind of a little bit, a little motivated by that.
Sure. Yeah. I was just saying this the other day. Anger can be such a motivator.
Yeah. If used in the right way.
Right. You don't want to turn into Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah. But you can hone in on it and be like, okay, what am I angry about? Okay, now I'm going to flip that on its head.
Right. And it can be fuel. It can. But like you said, with that intention.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I'm going to book this job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you did.
I did. And I was floored because I never saw myself as a Disney person. Like, I was an emo kid. I was punk in high school, and I can be a pessimist. So like, I was like, Disney is like, whatever. And now, yeah, I'm not that. I mean, I stepped into what that is. So it's pretty cool to be saying that I'm a part of the Disney family.
No kidding.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's pretty cool.
Talk to me about that. Talk to me about, was it a phone call?
Okay.
What was that moment that came in?
So I was actually staying in New Jersey because it's close to my aunt. And so I was going in and out of New York to audition, and I just left the audition and I was on the train to head back to New Jersey, and my agent called me and she's like, you did it, you booked it. And I was like, are you kidding me? After auditioning for 3 or 4 years over 4 times, and just every time being like, didn't get, and that time it happened, I called my mom instantly. I was like, I'm going on tour again. So to this point in my career, I'd always been on tour. That's the jobs that I was booking. You know, they say that like getting to Broadway is the next step. You know, it's that it's even better. You know, it's located in one city, so you're not traveling. So it's looked at it as a different thing. So, you know, I was just excited to get to do another awesome show, right? And to be a part of, I mean, Disney is epic, and Disney does theater and movies and cartoons right. And so it was just really cool to be a part of a good show.
Yeah, the best.
Yeah.
They're the best.
Yeah.
Right?
They figured it out.
They have. Every bit of it.
Yeah.
Really cool. You were in Jersey, and now you've booked the show. You do the tour.
Yeah.
Now, I know there was some other things with Newsies. Right? Some filming.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I had never been a part of like a filmed, like really anything. I mean, I did some commercials when I was a kid in St. Louis, but they were like small town stuff. And I'd never gotten an opportunity that this big. And Disney said, this show has been so successful and it's going to live on past this production, but we want to capture this moment. We want to put this on film so that it can always be remembered as the Disney Broadway musical Newsies.
I just got goosebumps.
Yeah, it was crazy. They came to us, and I remember prior to this, the creative teams kept on telling people who were leaving the show, like, are you sure you want to leave? Like, are you sure you want to leave? And I was like, why are they, like, you know, usually people don't say, do you want to leave? And it was because they were going to film it, and they had this idea to put it on film, and it went to Netflix, and now it's on Disney Plus, and it lives on, and people still watch it.
Oh, yeah. And it correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to state it wrong, but it had a movie theatrical release, right? Across theaters?
Yeah. So there was a specific like live event, like they do operas like that.
Right.
And it was featured in the Fathom events.
Yeah.
And so that was movies across the world. And I will just state, Newsies was also a 90s filmed version with Christian Bale, and he was like a teenager. And that was, it's a cult classic, but it was a flop in Disney's, movies back then. But Newsies, the musical, is not. So
yeah, no, it's great. Watch it. And still, it's on Disney Plus right now.
Yeah,
you can go watch it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's so cool. And so what fascinates me about that is the combining of those two worlds, the film production world and the stage theater world.
Yeah.
And maybe just talk to me a little bit about that process.
Okay.
Was it a run through? Did you guys do takes or what was that like?
Yeah. So the final product that they wanted was like the show in a live audience setting on stage. So putting that together, they started rehearsing us for this, and the idea was that we were going to put in Jeremy Jordan, Cara Lindsay, Andrew Keenan Bolger, who were a part of the original Broadway cast, and bring them to our production where we implemented the tour cast with them. And so we rehearsed that, and then we shut down the tour for a week to start filming, like to tidbits like close-ups and things like that, and like get the shots that they really wanted. And then at the end of that week, they had a special live performance on Sunday where they invited just super fans of Newsies to the audience, and we performed it for them with cameras. So the final product that you watch is a combination of pre-filmed and filmed live.
That's so cool.
It's really cool. And it turns out really cool because you don't know that watching it, and you see the audience and you see the reaction, and then you also get to see the close-ups of all the great acting and the tricks. The dancing in Newsies it's one of the best kind of Broadway musical style dance shows.
Talk about those Disney fans, right?
Okay.
Is there another, you said there was Disney's productions, right? I said it, they're the best.
Yeah.
Or, and Disney fans, is there a different feeling there when you're in a Disney show across the audience as well?
Oh yeah, for sure. Because there's so many like crossroads in the Disney like universe now, especially they like invited these other brands into it. But we get people who love Disney World, Disneyland. They love the animated Frozen. So now they're watching this. And I think what it really comes down to is the fact that when you go see any kind of Disney show, movie, TV, the characters are completely developed. The plot is, huge arcs, and people feel very close to these stories and these characters. It's something that's touched their lives. And so even though I'm just in the ensemble of these shows, I hear those stories, and I hear how a show or a musical has affected their lives, and it's super personal for them. It's something that they get into the core of your heart. They pull at your heartstrings, and it's pretty magical.
Yeah. And that just goes to show you how important some of these stories, these shows and theater is to people, and how it gives people so much meaning to their lives.
Yeah, I think a lot of the shows, I'm thinking about Coco right now, they can change your outlook on how death affected your life. And that can have a personal meaning. And every time I watch that movie, I see something different and I experience something different. It changes my perspective. If you let these shows do that for you, it can happen. Sometimes I think people are like, oh, it's just a cartoon. I believe that they get to the grittiness of storytelling.
Sure. And universal, human stories that most people can relate to.
Right.
So maybe we can dive into that a little deeper.
Okay.
And why, to you personally, these things matter. Theater, why pursuing and being a vessel for people to have these experiences of a connection,
right.
And how you have that flow through you.
Right.
Maybe you could just touch on that a little bit.
Yeah. So I think the reason why community and connection in theater matter a lot to me is, I grew up pretty different than most people. I was looked at like I was different, and I found out, when I was a teenager that I was gay, and that, that wasn't always the most welcomed invite from people. But when I found theater and I found the people that were similar to me, it let me still thrive, and it let me step out of a box that I was putting myself in. And having those people in that community, it changed me. It gave me an opportunity to have this life. And that probably wouldn't have happened. I really don't know what would have happened to me. And I'm glad that I don't know, because this is my life. And I'm really grateful that I've been able to find theater and theater people, and giving it back to the Artstarts kids this week. It's all a big circle, a big reminder of why I do it.
So how long were you doing the Newsies show? jumping back to that?
I was in Newsies for about 9 months, and that's when the filming happened, was in there. We were going to go longer, but, you know, that's how shows go. They close eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. Bittersweet ending?
It was bittersweet. It was bitter because I really enjoyed my time on that show. I always talk about the camaraderie and the brotherhood with that cast. Everybody got along really well, and I met some of my best friends on that show. And sweet because my body was tired.
Yeah.
And I needed a break.
I always find, you know, towards the end of a project, exhausting. You know, you pour yourself into it. A lot of dedication, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Mm-hmm.
There's always for me that I just can't wait till this is over, actually.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
but trying to stay in that moment and trying to give gratitude for doing it, being here.
Yeah.
But always wanting something next.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I find myself.
Yeah.
Similar.
Yeah. I think that for me, I think it's probably a part of the creative process. Like, I get bored pretty easily.
Yeah.
And I'm working on that because, you know, pandemic kicked that in right away.
Real hard.
Really hard. Bored. But you know, I'm always looking for the next project. Like, how can I expand? What else can I learn? Yeah. How else can I see the world?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And after, is there any other Newsies stories you want to mention, or any moment on the road, you know, seeing fans, or
there's a cool thing about Newsies that happened is that it has lived on past it. I was only in the show for 9 months, but it's a part of my life now. Like, we got to go see the screening of that movie, and there were some really cool Broadway celebrities in the audience. Joel Grey was there, and I got to bring my mom, and we got to all watch it together. And then, you know, Artstarts watched it at JTF, Junior Theater Festival, and you all did a Newsies, and I came here and I did a Newsies camp, and I watched the Newsies production, and it's one of the most produced shows now. So it always keeps living on. And I sometimes imagine the moment where I'm like an old grandpa and I'm like, yeah, kids, that was me, you know, and that it's there and I can always have it.
it will always be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool.
It is cool.
Through perpetuity. As long as Disney's around,
Yeah.
which I got a feeling.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going anywhere.
I don't think so. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So after the screening, was that kind of, were you done with the tour at that point as well?
Yeah, that was like months after the tour had ended. So it was like seeing my old friends again and
some sort of a reunion.
yeah,
feeling.
totally. We had a opening like party, you know, at a rooftop bar in New York City that I'll never forget. It was pretty fun.
Cool. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And so what do you do the day after that?
Asleep and say goodbye to my mom who's going back to Louisiana.
Yeah.
Just came to visit and keep auditioning. That's when, you know, I got back to the grind.
Yeah. So how do you, for those that might not be familiar with that audition process,
Okay.
what does that mean for you to keep auditioning?
Yeah, so to be a part of any like big production or movie, TV, film, you have to put yourself out there. You have to show up to the audition. You have to get the audition. You have to work for the audition. You have to look for the audition because it doesn't just, I mean, for some people who've like made it to that point in their career, but for me, it's a pursuit. So training, I got back into dance classes almost every week. I got back into acting classes to hone my skills. I put together a video reel to put on my website, and I asked my agent what kind of material she wanted to see from me and how can I get better auditions, things like that. And then showing up to the audition, right, which is a lot of the hard work, is getting there early in the morning and just putting your best foot forward. It can drain you auditioning like left and right because, you know, it's hard being told no a bunch of times. But for me, I have this overwhelming feeling of knowing that this is what I want to do. And so that sometimes it gets lost, but most of the time that trumps the feeling of like, oh, this is hard.
Yeah. It takes a lot of discipline, it sounds like.
It does take a lot of discipline, which, you know, is learned through time. But for me, if I can find an ease to my discipline, like consistency, it becomes easier.
Sure. Sort of getting into a rhythm with it, or a flow. And I'm sure a lot of confidence, right? You got to walk into that room.
Yeah.
Feeling all sorts of ways about yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe talk about that.
Totally. So something about confidence, no one's going to cast you in a show if you don't believe in yourself. So that just has to be there. And, you know, people talk about the idea of fake it till you make it. It works for some people. It doesn't work for others. But with the idea of fake it till you make it is that you get beyond the fake it part. And all of a sudden you start to understand the connections of what confidence is and why it is important. You know, starting to work on self-acceptance, self-love. And instead of listening to the thoughts that are going, you're not worthy, you shouldn't be doing this, you're not the best in the room, start to explore the other ideas of, I'm completely worthy, I should be here. I've been working really hard at this. It doesn't matter if I'm not the best person in the room, I'm still going to try my best.
Right, right. And, you know, if you don't believe that for yourself, nobody else will.
Nobody else will, because it's not their job or responsibility to give you confidence or hope or anything like that. I mean, I wish it was. I try to give it to people, but then it's like they're not looking for it either, you know? So
right.
It has to be here first.
Right. It has to start with, in here, right?
Inside
Start with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And believing that, convincing yourself through discipline, through the things you've heard,
right?
You know, through the experiences you've had. It's not easy.
No, because that means sometimes going through some older stuff. It means going through your past. It means figuring out what's going on in your life right now. You know, and I think that's a different path and a journey for everyone.
There's no right or wrong way either, you know, to do it. You know, what works for some people won't work for you.
Yeah.
What works for you won't work for someone else.
Totally.
And it's really that experimentation and just trying it, doing it.
Yeah.
Right? Putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Trying again.
Yeah, plan A doesn't work. Plan A doesn't work. I'm going to try plan B, and then C, and then D, and then E, and it doesn't matter that you got to J. Like, at least you found it.
Right. Yeah. Right. Try and try and try again.
Yeah.
You know, and I've heard that so many times, whether it's in theater, story here, or somebody else, you know, being told no 10 times and then still coming back on that 11th time and getting a yes and having the perseverance to do that.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I have so much respect for actors, performers, you know, what they do as part of the process.
Yeah.
It's just really inspiring, and you know, it's a grind. It can be.
Yeah, it's waking up early in the morning and hitting the pavement, because if you don't, somebody else is.
Yeah.
So you have to do it, and if you're not practicing and honing your skills, that person next to you is.
Yeah. And
so it's always a battle of like continuing to pursue getting better.
Yeah. Take me to Mean Girls.
Okay, yeah. So that was Newsies where we left off, and so after Newsies, I'm back in the grind, right? The grind.
What we're just talking about.
And it wears on you, Luke.
Yeah.
So I got worn out. I wasn't loving it as much, and I lost a connection to it. And you know,
is it just burnout, you think, or
yeah, a little burnout, because being told no over and over and over and over and over, it will set in.
Yeah.
I also saw like freedom of other people's lives a little bit when they weren't on that pursuit that I was on, and I was like, I kind of want that a little bit. I want to relax a little bit. So I stepped away, and I didn't say I'm never doing theater again. I think that's pretty important. I think a lot of people will walk away from something and say, I can't do it ever again. Well, maybe just like a half version of that. You know what I mean? Like, leave the door open.
Sure. Yeah, never say never.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and what I really wanted to happen was for me to find my connection again. I hadn't given up on it completely. So I stepped away and I focused more on my second passion, which is yoga, and I got my teacher training and I started teaching a lot, and I found another spark in my life, and I made connections with a yoga community, and I met people who were sick and injured, and I got to help them, teach them yoga and explore a different part of my life. And that all wrapped theater back into my life when I went and saw different shows again, and I had a newfound passion for life and for theater.
Talk about that reset, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was a reset.
And how that coming back with fresher eyes or a new perspective.
Right.
You know, sometimes you get so stuck in that grind.
Yeah.
That you can't get out of that
tunnel vision.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so important to step away sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking about perspective right now and how that tunnel vision, I'm only seeing one thing, right? I'm only seeing one thing. And I'm not seeing all the beautiful parts of my life. I'm not able to be appreciative and grateful for the good stuff that's happening in my life because I'm so focused on that one thing. So being able to say, you know, I'm going to stop going down that tunnel for a moment, and I'm going to look around the space and find other things that I'm grateful for. It was really, really interesting. You know, I saw the trees differently. I saw New York differently because it wasn't only just about Broadway. It was about the people in it. It was about the life that existed there. And, you know, I met a woman who had cancer, and she never talked to me about it, but I could just see that. And she came to my class a bunch, and I never spoke to her about it, but I could tell that it was important to her. And it changed the way I looked at yoga, that it helped her. And she was in remission by the last time she took my class. And, you know, I'm not teaching there anymore, but I mean, that was a beautiful thing to witness. And, yeah, I'm getting caught up right now.
No, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
It's unspoken.
Yeah.
Right?
It wasn't spoke about at all. Yeah. And I didn't want to, you know, I wanted to do yoga with her. I wanted her to breathe. I wanted her to get a physical exercise that was supportive to her. And I wanted both of us to just keep on thriving and living.
Yeah. That connection, that human connection.
Yes.
In that immediate moment, that's really special.
Yeah, it was really, really special. And that drew me back to Broadway. It drew me back to, like, life again, because I think that's what I love about musicals and Broadway is that it's like there's so much life on stage. There's so much happening, and there's so much excitement that I was drawn back to it again.
So you come back with this break, this reset, this new perspective. How do you make that decision to go again, to do another audition?
Yeah, it was a transition for sure. Like, I kept the yoga job, and then I was like, I'm going to layer this on top of the yoga job. So I didn't leave yoga. I was like, I'm going to make sure that I'm getting my own practice of yoga in, as well as teaching and giving it back to other people, which I then found a love for teaching and has, you know, guided me further along my path. But then I also did auditioning on top of that. So I even noticed when I was at these auditions that, like, I had a different perspective at auditions. I was happy to be there. I knew that even if this audition didn't go well, I still had my thing. I still had this new perspective, and it gave me this light and this spark that I got to bring with me to auditions. So that was really cool.
So you audition.
Yeah, I started auditioning again, and same thing with the Newsies, with Mean Girls. I had gone in a bunch of times, and I knew the casting director at this point. You know, I'm like, the director has seen me. He knows what I'm capable of. And it was cool because when it was like at the time where, okay, now Daniel, we want you back. We want you back. We want you back. By like the 5th audition, I was like, well, I got to go to work. You know, like y'all aren't paying me for auditions. And I told my agent that I was like, look, like they know what I can do, you know? And so if they want to hire me, they can call me. So I'm going to go teach. It's crazy to think of it like that, but, and they did, you know, like they saw that in who I was, and they did know me, and they did know what I was capable of because I had left it on the audition floor every time. And so it landed. I was at my work, you know, I'm at my job, and they need an immediate replacement. That's how it went down. Somebody in the show got injured, and I had to replace them like that week. So they were like, can you come to the theater tonight? That was crazy, man. That was a crazy, crazy experience.
Drop your yoga mat.
Yeah.
And get your butt to the theater.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, this is worth it. Mean Girls on Broadway is worth it. You know, that show is hilarious, based on a classic movie that is so freaking funny.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah. And I always wanted to be a part of something like that.
Yeah. That moment. Are you you were teaching in that moment?
Yeah. I was working the desk. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you just go nuts?
Oh, yeah. I told the people in the studio, I was like, sorry, I'm not going to be in anymore. You know, I called my boss and I was like, hey, so I got the call, like it happened. And he was like, oh, yeah, I know that. I knew that was coming. So that was really cool, full circle moment of all of it coming together.
Yeah. You go to the theater that night.
Yeah, I went to the theater that night. I made a little reaction video because I was so in a moment of like craze. So that's on my Instagram, and I love looking at that video because I just walk into the stage door after that. And that first night they had me watch the show, and I know I was supposed to be like paying attention to what they're doing in the ensemble because I'm about to learn it, but I'm just like, oh my God, I'm here and I'm about to be in this show and it's so pink. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very pink.
Yeah. And I've seen photos of you.
Yes.
I've seen you on the photos. And so, I mean, that's just got to be a surreal moment for you. You know, you're there, you're about to go on, you're about to be thrust into this production. Did they put you in rehearsals right away?
Yeah, I went into rehearsals the day after that in the morning, and it was nonstop because, you know, he's injured. You need to be in the show now because if there's not a person on stage, then the show is lacking a person, and then the show starts to, you know, domino effect, and that's not what we want to do in our professional Broadway shows. So, yeah, right away in it, I always knew that I was supposed to be leading myself in these kind of rehearsals, but it had never been that intense of, you know, we're going to give you a plan, you know, we're going to give you the outline, but it's actually you have to do all the work. So, you know, we'll give you some of the notes and some of the music, but you're the one who has to go and learn it. Like, so not only was I in rehearsals all day, but at night I was supposed to be like also digesting all of this, and like, it was crazy.
Yeah, just thrown into the mix.
Yeah.
Survive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then was that, so you had done local theater, you had done high school, into college, into national touring. Talk to me about that Broadway.
Yeah, that next thing.
Next level.
Yeah.
What's that feeling? Is it an intensity? What is that?
Oh yeah, super intense. Very intense, very visceral, like just like feeling everything and seeing everything that I've wanted and dreamed of and imagined, and it's all there. And also there's all these other things that I never thought would be there, like how hard it is and how much pressure there is and how it just didn't stop. There's no stopping. There's no break. It was just non-stop. You know, when the day came where you get one day off, I had to do all the other things that happened in my life. So it just never felt like I got like a break. But when I was at the show, it was so amazing. The energy from the audience, from the stage, from the lights. And then after the show, you know, meeting fans outside and taking pictures with people and people telling me their stories and, you know, bringing my family and my friends to see the show and them going through the full experience of like, I knew you could do it. And it was really, really awesome.
Yeah. You made it, you know?
Yeah.
You are a Broadway performer.
Yeah. That's what I wanted. That's what I pursued. Yeah.
No one can ever take that away from
No, they cannot. And I'm going to keep it, you know, and I tell my other friends on tour that I'm like, you know, you're a Broadway performer too, because I did 4 other shows before I got to that point. And it's pretty much the same show. It's pretty much the same level of how hard it is. But yeah, I get to say I'm a Broadway performer.
Yeah. That is just amazing.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. Congrats, man.
Oh, that feels really good. Thank you.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah. Little Daniel, who, you know, was at the Muni, wouldn't have ever believed something like that.
Wow.
And I know that he is super proud of me.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
No matter what, man, that's, you know, something you'll always have, you know.
And I'm keeping it with me. I want to keep theater a part of my life. You know, during the pandemic, theater hasn't been an option. And yoga wasn't an option for a little bit. And so I really, really did, you know, what's my pivot? What else can I do? And I'm glad to say my pivot was teaching online theater and getting back into yoga again and finding different ways to do those things. So I'm pretty sure theater is going to be a part of my life. And, you know, having those shows, which were a part of my early career, will always be with me. And I want more, you know, I want to be in even better shows, you know, maybe TV and film one day. So I've always got other places to go too.
Yeah, totally. And kind of, you know, we don't know what's going to happen next, you know.
Never.
Like you said, that kid would never have dreamt of what was possible for you.
Right.
And it became true.
Right.
You know, now, I mean, we're still young men, you know. There's a lot of life ahead.
A lot of years, yeah.
You know? And there's got to be future iterations of that, you know, of what's coming. We don't know.
Yeah, totally.
You know, but keeping our roots, you know, rooted in theater, performance.
Yeah.
You know, whatever you do will be obviously a great foundation to move forward.
I
build
agree.
More on.
Yeah, those connections and that community that I learned so much from and gave me so much courage and strength and confidence. I'm not going to, at this point, I'm not leaving that. And I want to keep them being a part of it and give it back. You know, that feels so good, giving it back to the kids at Artstarts, the people at the stage door, the community that also thrives where I do.
Yeah.
I didn't stay with the show till it closed, actually, because I was only there to be a part of the person who got injured's replacement. And so, you know, he had healed up. And in that process, I had booked Frozen, the musical, to get on tour. So I was at Mean Girls knowing that it was going to come to an end for me. And I think because of that, I got to stay in a place of gratitude the whole time, that this is about to end. And I know it will end. And I know it's going to be my Broadway debut. And I'm just going to soak it up for what it is. I'm thinking right now about this Broadway flea market that they do every year. And I've always seen photos of it. And I've actually walked through it with your brother Lawrence and my friend Jacob. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. It's like Broadway. And I got to represent Mean Girls. And I just took advantage of all of it. I was like, hey, you know, we're going to do an auction. And I got everybody pumped up. And I took photos all day. And I was like, this is so cool. Like, and I'm not doing that again this summer. You know what I mean? I didn't know when the next time that would happen, where I got to represent a Broadway show in something so epic like that. So I took advantage of all of the things, you know, the cabarets that happened, or the parties that happened with the cast, and going to the stage door as much as I can. And yeah, because that final day came, and that was the end of Mean Girls for me.
Yeah. Knowing you've gotten Frozen.
Yeah.
And is there some off time between those?
No.
No.
No. I remember there was supposed to be, and then Mean Girls was like, so you can stay like another week. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, I can't say no. Yeah. So I stayed, and then it was my last show, and then I started Frozen the next day. And that was pretty special, though, too. That doesn't happen very often, where you're going like literally show to show. And I was pretty grateful for that.
Yeah. Riding high off of the Broadway debut.
Yeah.
Into Frozen.
Right. Yeah. So showing up day number 1 and be like, yeah, I just was on Broadway last night. Yeah. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Brush them up. Yeah. Okay. Hey.
Yeah. And also like bringing good energy that like, I'm not going to just be like, yeah, I was on Broadway. And then I'm like really excited to be about like a part of this new cast, because that was a completely new cast. I had never been a part of a new cast, right? We're the original tour cast of Frozen, the national tour. So I'm meeting my tour family, and they're all meeting me, and bringing that energy of like, oh, I know how to be on tour. I know how to have a good time. I know how to be in a Disney show that I'm grateful for, and to share like, yo, we're going to go to Disneyland together. We're going to go to Disney World together. This is going to be fun. Bringing that kind of energy.
Heck yeah. Enjoying that moment maybe.
Yeah, more. Totally. So confidence for sure, but also just like being able to say, this is really rare opportunity, and I'm very grateful for it. And everybody at Frozen was extremely grateful to be there. It just felt really good to like lead with that.
Yeah, and you had a pretty amazing, unique character.
Yes, I did.
Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so I got to be the understudy for Olaf and Wesselton, but Olaf is just one of the coolest characters I've ever seen. And,
right.
He's a puppet in the musical show, but, you know, I think people hear that and they're like, oh, puppet. It's like, no, he's like this really cool, epically designed puppet that comes to life on stage.
Yeah. And that in itself is its own puppetry, its own performance, own training, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Getting into how to manipulate something that's now not your body. Yeah. As a dancer, maybe you.
Totally.
Right? But there's some connection there.
Yeah, I mean, I remember at the audition, they were like, so you've never worked with a puppet, right? And I was like, nope. And they were like, okay, but you are a dancer, right? And I was like, yes. And so I did try to bring that physicality to puppetry, because the puppet's heavy. And so, you know, using my body to control it, and then like I know that it needs to look like it's alive, right? So that I'm giving it this kind of feeling. But a lot of times they're like, okay, can you move a little bit slower? Because my movements are usually big when I dance, and like I have these big epic things that are happening. But they're like, for him, it's more subtle. You know, he's got these little arms, and he's got this little step, and his feet connect to my feet. So when I step, he steps. When I move my waist left and right, his little waist moves side to side, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Was there a lot of rehearsal time that you had leading into the first show? So
I actually perform in the ensemble every night, and there was a lot of rehearsals. We did about 2 months of rehearsals.
Okay.
So about 4 weeks in a rehearsal studio in New York City, and then 4 weeks on stage doing tech, because there's a lot of magic and Frozen, and so we had to rehearse all that. Lots of like scary icicles that come out of the ground and the ceiling and everywhere, and lots of really crazy like costume changes that I can't talk about. And you know, so we had to really rehearse those things and bring Arendelle to life.
During that time, I mean, the Frozen, we talked a little bit about Disney fans, Disney fandom.
Right.
And Frozen, I feel like, is
It's epic.
to another level.
It's epic. The sister bond like brings out all the sisters. The female empowerment brings out so many women. The young characters bring out all of the family ages, and you know, Olaf rounds it all off, and it's just funny. So we get, you know, every type of person loves Frozen.
That's a great show.
It is.
Classic. Disney classic, modern classic.
I love that it's led by love. Like that's the key to the story, and that it's not about, you know, the fairy tale kiss.
Right. Sisterly love.
Yeah. Family love.
Yeah. Not a damsel in distress.
Yeah. Women that can take care of themselves.
Yeah. It's a very nice modern movie.
Yeah.
You know, in that regard.
And then we got to bring it to life, that, you know, when the cartoon feels like it's like a little bit made for children, that the adult parts of it come to life through the musical, that we are telling a story that you can relate to, because everybody has a feeling like they're not wanted like Elsa does. That, you know, that she might be a little witchy, crazy, things like that. And there's a huge story about, you know, finding your own way in life and overcoming parts of your life.
And so that tour started 4 weeks after, so fall of 2019?
Yep.
Yeah. And so we all know what comes out around the corner, right?
2020.
2020.
Yeah, we were in Los Angeles when, you know, the news reports started coming out, and people were getting sick in LA, but it wasn't like maybe this is that. But I'm pretty sure at that point there was something December 2019.
Yeah.
And because we weren't testing, we didn't know. I mean, that's the biggest thing. We had no idea. Mm-hmm. And so then we went to Seattle, and then we went to Portland. And by the time we got to Portland, it was March 2020, and there was no more theater anymore. And that was really crazy, because I was prepared to be on tour for a long time. Like, I packed everything. I gave away my apartment. I, you know, was going to be living on the road for a long time.
Yeah.
And then something else happened. So we had no idea what was coming.
Right. Total shutdown.
Yeah. And then I remember, like, it was the night before we got shut down that we heard that Hamilton had just decided to shut down the night before. And I was like, oh, we're about to be closed.
It's all coming down now.
Yeah. And then we had a company meeting. I think it was March 13th. And that's when they were like, you know, we're going to take a few weeks break, or maybe a month break.
Not quite
How
the story goes.
Not quite how the story goes. Yeah. And so, you know.
So you were in Portland at that time.
I was in Portland, and that's where the show shut down. And I decided to stay in Portland because I love that city, and I have a life there because I've been there a bunch of times. And, you know, through waiting and developing my own sense that this is going to be longer than a few weeks, a month, a few months.
Right.
Got a new apartment and made a life for myself in Portland.
Yeah.
Not an easy decision, but one that had to be made. Life had to keep moving.
Sure. Yeah, I mean,
Disney likes to plan, and they like to really be on top of like schedules and things like that. So they kept on like doing that, and they kept doing that. And then it was like, it felt good that they were doing that, but it also gave me this false security, because that I was like realizing, I was like, this is just going to keep on getting pushed back and pushed back. So they were, you know, relaying certain messages to us, and they were staying hopeful. And I'm so grateful that I didn't lose my job completely, and that Frozen the tour is planned to come back, and we plan to start performances August 2021.
wow.
Yeah. And now it looks like the clouds are clearing, and I'm excited because I've always loved studying the Renaissance and the time when art thrived, and I can't help but feel like after it's been gone for so long that it might thrive a little bit more.
Well, sure. You know, I had a conversation with a friend the other day about that exact topic. the Renaissance in Italy happened after the plague.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way. There's getting through this last year, people are just dying for it, dying to get out there, dying to gather again, to share that intimacy again. And we need it.
Yeah.
I think we need it too. Bad.
Yeah, kind of ironic that you're saying they're dying for it, They're dying for it. But they are, because people are pushing for it so much. And I think it's a little like nerve-wracking to say that we're going back to it, but like also I feel like we were in such an unknown, there was so much not knowing at one point that we had to keep making more progress. And so we know a lot more now. And so we have, procedures and things to keep us safer. And these vaccines, I mean, to me, that's like the ultimate part of that. And so, I'm excited that there is this light that life can come back in a way.
So important to hold on to that, to hold on to that horizon.
Yeah.
This is what we're working towards, or this is what's coming.
Yeah. And we sacrifice so much to get there, right?
Yeah. I know you guys have been having so much fun at this camp, right, with the kids. I've been hearing snippets of it.
I was going to say, yeah, Luke's been around and he's been seeing all the games and the laughter that have been happening.
Oh, it's just been so cool. It's the first time we've had a group of kids like this here. Yeah. And it's just it just gives a different energy. Yeah. There's been such a good energy.
Yeah.
A peaceful energy.
Yes.
It's calming.
Yeah, these kids are looking to the future and they're excited about like the next day, the next week. They've got this perspective of the world that's like really fresh.
Yeah. Yeah. And inspiring, and it's cute. Yeah. It's so cute, to see their imaginations run wild.
Oh yeah, that's not hard for them to think of what's possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
It comes pretty naturally.
Yeah. We could have some takeaways ourselves,
I'm learning a lot from the don't think about it, just go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been great, and great to have you here. We're lucky to have you here.
Thank you.
So thanks for being here.
I appreciate that.
Doing what you're doing. Keep doing it.
I'm going to. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited for Frozen.
Yeah. Live theater. Broadway.
Live theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there one piece of advice?
Okay.
If you could give yourself or one of the kids at Artstarts, looking back, what would you say?
That's a good question. I would give the advice that not everything goes as planned, right? So I really like planning. I really like knowing what's coming up next. How can I, get a grasp on what that is? And, it's okay if things go on a different way. That moment of it didn't go as it's planned, and I'm still going to keep going. So I think that'd be something good for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Life doesn't always go as planned.
It doesn't, man.
But it keeps on going.
Yeah, man, and we're still doing what we can.
So, Daniel, thank you for being here, for doing the Back in Action Artstarts camp, for doing this podcast.
Of course.
Where can people find you?
Totally. You can find me on Instagram at DanYo Switzer, DanYosWitzer. And you can find me on Facebook, Daniel Switzer. I got a website, danielswitzer.com. And I'm so glad that I got to be here. I love working with Artstarts. This is my 3rd or 4th year doing stuff with you all. And being here at Union Street Arts is just like the culmination of everything good put together here in Marion.
That's awesome. Yeah, we're so lucky to have you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Luke.
Hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Yeah, round 2 for sure.
Yeah, we'll have you back after the Frozen tour.
Exactly.
We'll get a check-in, and we'll see where we're at.
Yeah, and I'll be happy to see what's going on here in Marion.
Yeah, we'd love to have you.
All right, cool, man.
Okay, signing off. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, everyone out there.
Peace.